Hey, welcome back to the Living ABSD podcast. I'm AB, short for ABSD. I use they, them pronouns. And I'm excited today to have a friend here who, we met really divinely at a coffee shop about a year ago and then didn't know each other until a couple months ago. And it feels really serendipitous to get to be together in space today and have you here, RJ. And I'm just excited to hear more about your story and your unique perspective and light that you get to bring to this world. And I would love to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm RJ Quirk. I'm the host of the Trans Embodiment Podcast, and I'm so excited to be here and be doing this little podcast crossover, and of course, to be in space with you and your lovely energy. Thanks so much for having me on.
Yeah, so glad you're here. As we enter in, we're going to take 3 breaths together. If you're listening and want to breathe with us, the invitation is to close your eyes. Not if you're driving, though, of course. And then I'll set an intention and we'll dive in. All right, let's breathe together. I call upon our divine spirit teams and guides and any energy that vibrates at divine love or higher. As we enter into the space today, I ask that this podcast find all who is meant to listen to it when they are meant to listen to it. Let us be in each other's joy and fun. And I just have so much gratitude that we get to be here in this space together and sharing conversation and dialogue. I ask that this create some curiosity and help people see that there is more and to open up the perspective even further. And so it is. So RJ, I love to start this space with the same question. Have there been any key turning points or breakthroughs for you on your journey?
Wow, that question is so big. I know all of your guests say that, right?
Yes, especially this season. Every guest has said that.
Yeah. Okay, so I would say that I have had the biggest journey in my life. Obviously, I'm trans. I use they, them pronouns. I guess I didn't introduce that to myself. But hi, everyone. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm trans. And I do a lot of thinking about embodiment and transness. But besides all of the journeys that are very commonplace with that, and if you want to hear more about those journeys, maybe go check out my podcast, Trans Embodiment Podcast. But here I want to focus on something a little bit different because that's what your podcast is about. And I think it's a beautiful space to kind of grow beyond those conversations. And I would say that big turning points in my journey are actually more about home and what feels like home and what home is, who home is, where ideas of home come from and whether those work for me or not. I was born and raised in Colorado. And I left Colorado when I was 18, very much so running away on the run. I went to New York at first, and then even that wasn't far enough. And then I went to Europe and then all over Northern Africa. And I worked in Southern Africa for a while and then to Southeast Asia. And all along that journey was very much so a question of home. And what does home feel like? And in those many little turning points as I changed place and had new relationships and built new families, I think each of those little turning points was really about a homecoming to myself, right? And learning that I'm home and I get to decide what home is. And also now that is kind of expanding out and me deciding, okay, I also would like a stable place to call home. And I've sort of chosen Boulder to be that. And I'm still a little bit wibbly and have a lot of things that scare me about kind of being connected to place in this way, but I truly think that Boulder is meant to be a home base, a landing pad, even if I'm not here, somewhere to come back to, a community that I can rely on. And it has been a long journey in the making for that.
I love that all of those turning points and shifts and transitions led you towards yourself. And understanding that this is my home and I get to keep this safe in the process of everything else that is shifting and turning around me. And I feel like from what I do know of you, it's just been beautiful to witness how you do embody your home and how you share and create space for other people to see and embody their own homes. And I love that that's also now growing into having a physical place to land to, and knowing that there is people and support around you as you are taking your home with you, but also get to come back and be physically held. And it makes me curious about the fear that has held you or you've transitioned with from place to place, and how do you hold fear? How do you navigate fear? What's your relationship like?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So for me, I think this tension between roots and home, and also this love to fly, to travel, to be unbound, that's a really, for me at least, a familial trauma. So it's a generational trauma, and I think it goes to ancestry. I think it's an ancestral trauma. And I really think that that has been part of my journey, is choosing to work through that trauma, and also to support my ancestors in putting energy into working through that and resolving that conflict there. And I have a very strong ancestral practice. It's very important to me to be thinking about my elders who are alive, my family, and the traumas that they have gone through, particularly in relationship to home and place, and the desire to fly, to travel, not necessarily to travel even, but to have adventure, to be unbound. And then also the pressures to create home base and to be more rooted. And then bringing that outward, also thinking about my ancestors and calling them into space and communing with them and figuring out, how do I heal this thing that I think has been a really sore spot in my ancestry. And I want to be really clear, when I talk about ancestry, I'm not talking about like these colonial biolegal ideas of ancestry, but more so a network. So there are obviously biological aspects to it. I do have, the biological family, but I also include found family and chosen family in that, in a sort of queerifying way, decolonial way. So I'm also thinking about my transcestors and trans ancestors who didn't have the same access to home, to family, to rootedness, and also have lacked access to being able to leave, whether it's access to passports or being able to go elsewhere and be able to gain citizenship because of their trans embodiment, whatever that may look like. So there's a lot of different ways that trauma looks like. Yeah. So did I wrap this up? How do I wrap this up? What was the question?
It was around fear.
Great, fear. Okay, yeah. So I think, thank you. I'm really on a journey here.
I like it. Go on the journey. It's brilliant.
So yeah, I think the fear for me is actually like a familial ancestral one. And there's the fear of being rooted. There's the fear of leaving. There's the fear of being bound. There's the fear of never having the place to come back to, right? And so I feel it's really nice to be at a place in my journey where I'm finally starting to be able to reconcile those things. For so long, I've sort of ping-ponged back and forth between them and tried to create resolutions, and they've, fallen apart between my hands, all kinds of different things. And, this time may very well be another trial, and, throw something at the wall, it doesn't stick. But I really think that I'm coming to a place where I'm starting to find a resolution between those things.
And as you are connecting them and finding what does stick and doesn't stick, you're trying. Mm-hmm. And I applaud you for continuing to show up to try, because through navigating the intergenerational aspects and the transcestors and the ancestors in your familial lines, and even just your own intergenerational ties to everything, and being able to continue to show up to that work and try, is how you find out. And it's how you navigate the unbound and the bound and find where those roots lay. And it's inspiring to watch it and to see your journey with it, and also how you share that with people so that other people can embody that journey for themselves too. Because it's new, in a sense that it's being talked about. It's not new and like these are people's experiences, but actually where the information can be touched and tangible and actually experienced. And that's a gift that you offer the world. And I'm grateful that you show up to trying and get to share that gift with people.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And I think the question about fear, right? Like that is scary. Like one of the hardest things is to keep showing up and keep getting it wrong and keep showing up and getting it wrong, right? I'm sure you've had that in your own experience.
Oh, most definitely. Especially like sitting in a podcast space.
Right, absolutely.
Because you are putting yourself out there and have the vulnerability of doing that. And you've walked through that and are still walking through that of navigating, what do I share? What do I not share? How I want to be heard and seen, but what do I need to keep for me and what is appropriate to share? And then the line of, now people know this about me and all of this information is in the world. And do people know me? No, you know a part of me, but navigating the pieces that come along with that, it is fearful. But we're so strong and we can do hard things.
We can do hard things.
And
it's
a ripple effect that's worth it every time. It's what I've experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And your podcast is rippling. And it's beautiful to get to hear about that. And just, if you haven't listened to the Trans Embodiment Podcast yet, I will plug this at the end again, but like, go listen to the Trans Embodiment Podcast.
AV is going to come on for an episode very soon, so keep an eye out for that.
That's going to be really fun.
It'll be so good to have you on.
Thanks. I'm excited. As you've been navigating and found yourself back here in Colorado, what challenges or setbacks have come up that you've had to work through to find you're settling now?
So I came back to Colorado under really traumatic circumstances, which I know that we've talked about before. And I think it's important. I think we all have to go through at least one moment in our lives, if not multiple, where it's the whole rug gets pulled out from under us, right? And, some people don't experience that until much later in life. And it's a really big rug that gets pulled out. Some people experience it more midlife. And, there's still a lot that gets pulled out. Some people happen to experience it when they're a lot younger and they learn big lessons from that. And they have more time to rebuild. Everybody has their own journey. And the rebuilding has been painful and hard and has challenged me in every aspect that I think it's possible to challenge me in. But I don't think I'm totally done with that journey, that rock bottom journey, I will call it. But I'm on the other side of the hill of it, at least. And from the position that I'm in now, I can already see that I am a much stronger, more interesting, more thoughtful person. I am more able to hold relationships and show up for them. I am more able to care for myself, and I have more tools to move through this world. So yeah, I think that's not necessarily getting into the specifics for you, but I would say, especially for anybody listening who might be going through a sort of rock bottom, right? It's so painful and it's so hard and it's so worth it, is what I will have to say about that.
Yeah, I would agree. There's nothing about it that's fun, except for when we get to look back and say, wow, look how much I've grown. And yes. I survived it. And I've survived every aspect that's come before me. And now I can stand in that strength and knowing that I carry that power. And like you said, it's made you more complex. It's made you more interesting. It's made you more you. And not to say that those things are easeful walking through, but to know that we can hold it all. And it makes me think about strength. And how has your definition of strength changed as you have been navigating and healing on your journey?
AB, what a beautiful question. I love that question. Okay, strength.
I looked up and the moon is in the sky behind your head. And I just was like, ah!
Wow, it's really bright out. I can't believe the moon is out.
Like perfectly in the window right now.
What? Wait, you must be at a different perspective than me.
Yeah, right under the cloud, the little sliver.
Oh my goodness, yeah. It's sort
sliver.
We're near a new moon. I think the new moon was last night? Was it last night?
It was
2 nights ago?
Sunday.
Okay. A while ago, actually. Like a week ago. I'm a little off on my moons.
She's growing. She's a waxing presser right now.
She's waxing.
In the daylight.
Yes, she's got a nice little sliver there. Well, I'm glad that the moon is looking over us.
Yeah, me too.
And blessing this episode.
So sweet.
It's actually funny you bring up the moon, because I think the moon has always been a really a symbol of power for me. I remember when I was little going out onto my deck and just staring up at the moon for ages in the middle of the night, and feeling like that was a place that I could quietly contemplate and get, maybe regather my energies, my powers. So I love that you brought up the moon while we're on a question about strength.
Yeah, she was like, call me in right now. I want to be noticed. I'm like, okay. I will bring attention to you.
Beautiful. Okay, so how my definition of strength has changed. I think I have a more tender idea of strength. When I was young, especially trying to perform womanhood, and maybe I didn't have the words for it, but navigating through the expectations of what I thought I should be versus what was feeling in alignment or natural for me, and gendered expectations and all kinds of societal expectations as a whole, I had this like very rigid idea that strength, and I think this is not uncommon, right? I think that I had this rigid idea that strength was about armoring myself up and like never showing my true feelings or emotion, and being very analytical, like really buying into a lot of masculinist and like patriarchal ideas of strength. And like, I think maybe some of the ways that I bridge the gap between like being forced into a journey of womanhood and like really wanting to connect more with the masculinity and not knowing how to access that really took place in the idea of strength more than anywhere else. And so I sort of became this like parody of like, oh, I'm gonna perform this badass womanhood, the motorcycle riding, kickboxing, like don't fuck with me drummer,
Don't fuck with RJ.
Right. Yeah. And I was very successful at that. Like I like did resting bitch face and like a king, and and it was really unhealthy. It wasn't making me any friends. It was a very lonely journey to walk. I was very unhappy, right? Well, for one hand, performing womanhood sucked, but then also like trying to put these like masculinist, almost toxically masculine presentations onto womanhood was just like so the wrong way to go about it.
This isn't working.
Yeah, it was like honestly making me like putting me on a path to become like a psychopathic CEO, like,
yes, I do know.
Could have made a lot of money, but would have been so unhappy.
Not in this lifetime, damn it.
Mm-hmm,
We
exactly.
choose happiness.
Oh, yes, we choose happiness, yes. So I think where I am now, strength is so much softer. It is about being able to hold myself and to not abandon myself while also holding others. It is about being able to navigate hard situations with creativity and to be able to stay emotionally regulated while doing that. I think it's about being able to have flexibility and to, like this is a very like Buddhist cliche, but to, be water, right? To be able to go with the flow and not be so rigid. And so it's really transformed from this very rigid idea of what strength is to this very soft vision of strength. And I think now strength is a way that I connect to like my more feminine side as a non-binary person. Mm-hmm. And like when I think about if strength for me were to have gender in the ways that I want to embody it, it would be a more feminine presentation, which is really opposite of what I like tried so hard to achieve when I was younger. And I think that there are other ways that I connect to maybe the divine masculine or really like can bring in more masculine aspects of me, but strength is not one of them, because I think that ideas of strength around masculinity tend to be very toxic and are not very helpful for anybody's happiness or, our collective well-being.
Yeah, most definitely. I love that the journey that you have been on has had you hold both so that you, inside of your non binary identity, know how to hold what is important to you within strength. And the definition of how you explained that was so beautiful. And what a great invitation of holding strength so tenderly, because it is this gift that we get to be flexible and be like water and to be in the flow and to allow the whatever is meant to happen be and not have this rigidity around it. I really appreciate that. And it makes as you were talking, you brought up relationships in an essence. And I'm curious of like how your relationships have changed and navigated. That's not what I want to say. Changed how you have navigated your relationships and how they have changed while you have been on your journey of becoming you.
That's a really hard question. Yeah. I think, I don't know if you relate to this, but I imagine you do based on what I know about you, that relationships through big transitions, whether it's a gender transition or some other kind, a spiritual transition, any of these big life changes that we might embark on, it's really hard to keep our relationships. It can be very upheaving to our relationships. Mm-hmm. So I think that has been a very painful journey for me. I don't have a lot of relationships from when I was young. And part of that is because I was so guarded. It was that strength thing. I had so many walls up that I wasn't really making real relationships. And part of it is because I couldn't take most of those relationships with me. The relationships I did make could not grow and change with me. Mm-hmm. And there's a part of me that really envies people who have a lot of friends from like high school or college. And then there's like a part of me that maybe this is like my shadow, but it sort of judges it of like, have you grown? And like, and there's an amazement too. Like if you all have grown and done tons of growing and you've remained friends, that's beautiful and amazing. But I also think that that's rarely the case, right? So it's sort of navigating those like inner feelings of like, oh, this yucky envy, and then this feeling of like, oh, but do I really want that? Yeah. Very messy journey. But yeah, I would say overall my relationships have had to go over many, almost entire overhauls to be able to change with me. And I have better relationships than I've ever had before. I can say absolutely hands down, I have amazing friends, and every single one of them is just the best human you could possibly imagine. And there is so much love and trust and security. And that's because I have become somebody who cultivates love and trust and security.
I do empathize with that. Yes, as I transitioned, probably 80% of the people in my life fell out of my life, because you're right. As you're navigating big changes, it makes sense that not everybody's going to be able to come with you. And it is tender of these people who have known us along the way, and reason, season, or lifetime friends that have fallen in and out or are still there, that 20% for me that have really held on during that. And the more that we embody ourselves, the more people have to fall out of our lives so that we can find the people who align with our version of self that is us. Mm-hmm. And it's as you're in your authenticity of being you, and now the people around you are just fucking awesome and get to hold you so beautifully. And there's so much love and reciprocity and care that's in those relationships. Those are the relationships to aspire to. And you've done that because you've been on this journey and because those people have fallen out of your life and made it possible for room for new. And as you've navigated that, how have you held boundaries with yourself and within relationships?
Yeah, as you were talking, I was actually actively thinking about boundaries. So what a great transition. Yeah, I think it's very lonely. It's very lonely to go through this process of becoming yourself, of embodiment. And all of the relationships that do by necessity sort of drop away. And I think that there's a period, at least one that I went through, but I don't think it's uncommon for there to be a really despondent period in that where you haven't quite grown into the relationships that are healthier, that hold you better, that are more in alignment. And also you're losing all of these friends because you're setting boundaries and you're being more authentic and in tune with yourself. And that is a really lonely period. So I just want to appeal to listeners who might be on this journey or in that period, just keep going because it gets better.
It does. It really does.
It does, but it's hard.
I'm so sorry if you're in that right now.
Truly, I really feel for that. And I think the boundary setting phase is a really painful one, especially for people who have been socialized as a woman, because women are taught to make themselves smaller, to ignore their needs, to ignore their body cues, right? And it's really, really challenging to unlearn those behaviors and to learn that it's okay to set boundaries and to have expectations and learn that you're not too much for having those, right? So yeah, I would say for me, I was always good at boundary setting. Maybe too good, like to the point I needed more finesse with it and more love and maybe a little bit more softness with it. So my journey has been really interesting where I went from being very, very, very boundaried to like then kind of overcorrecting and definitely being too soft and sort of taking on a lot of those like more typically feminized like socializations. And I think that journey was a little bit of the starting to come into my gender and sloshing off the armor of masculinity, and then like going, you know, once that the armor was gone, then what was left was the socialization, and then like having to swim my way out of that. And it's challenging, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's cool to hear that you have always had a relationship with boundaries. For me, growing up in a female body, I didn't know boundaries could exist. I didn't know that was an option. And so I had to teach myself how to hold boundaries. And that's still something that as I'm navigating, it's uncomfortable and challenging. And sometimes I'm like, did I do it? I'm not sure. I feel like I communicated what I needed, but I'm still working on that. And to know that there is such a journey with it, that whether you start really well boundaried and have to come out and go the opposite direction to then find your safe spot in the middle. And through that, how have you held boundaries with yourself?
Yeah, well, so I think this is interesting in the way we're talking about this. For me, boundaries are always for yourself.
Yeah,
right.
True.
So like, and then what you just mentioned, for me at least, is more about like communicating your needs or expectations, wants, all those things. And that is also very challenging. And that is the one that I think, like kind of talking about what I was talking about being almost too boundaried, is I was never vulnerable enough because of that armor I had on to do that communicating of wants, needs, expectations. And so then I would just come in with these harsh boundaries, cut people out of my life, you know, just like walk away from things without ever communicating or giving people the opportunity to show up. Yeah. So what has been really hard for me throughout this journey is giving people an opportunity to show up, is allowing myself to be vulnerable enough to see if somebody can be the friend that or the partner or the community member that I need them to be. And then the boundaries part is more about, okay, how do I not abandon myself? What are the decisions I need to make? How do I move through this world to really stand up for myself? And that for me has actually been more about a resentments conversation, and really cueing into what my resentments that are building are telling me. And anytime a resentment comes up, at least for me, it means that I've crossed a boundary for myself. I'm abandoning myself in some way. I'm not taking care of myself. And that's unfair. That's really unfair to hold those resentments towards other people, particularly if you haven't communicated your wants, needs, whatever. But even if you have communicated those things and resentments are coming up, then it's clear that there's an incompatibility there in that relationship or that interaction or, whatever is happening there. And that's so hard, especially because it can feel like you have so much more to lose by not abandoning yourself, because you lose this relationship, the friendships, the feelings you get there, the access, sometimes privileges that you might get from having a certain relationship with somebody. But in the end, not abandoning yourself is always the answer. You can never abandon yourself, right? And that is really hard to learn. I feel like I'm still very much so on that journey.
That's a perspective shift I needed to hear today,
Really?
Around boundaries being not abandoning yourself in the process of creating safety within your own home. And I think about myself as a home and how I can keep this vessel safe, and the resentment piece of holding that with how did I abandon myself, and now that I'm holding the resent towards you because of that abandonment, I'm going to sit with that. I feel like there's a lot of work in that for me, and I appreciate the way that you view boundaries and sharing that in this space, because it's a new way of viewing them for me. So thank you for that, and for your journey with it. It's cool to witness you in that.
Thank you so much. I really look forward to hearing you as you kind of process these and go on your own journey with that, because it's a hard one. I'm still on mine for sure.
Oh yeah, me too. It's lifelong.
Lifelong, absolutely.
So as the perspectives in your life have changed and you have learned new skills and gained tools along the way, how has your worldview shifted?
Oh gosh, another really big question. How do I encapsulate this in just like a podcast episode?
Just one question.
just a teeny question. Teeny tiny question. How has my worldview shifted? Oof. Can you ask the question again?
Yes. As your perspectives have shifted and you have opened up to being you, in the understanding that you have, walking through the complexities and navigating the boundaries and the abandonment and all of the different pieces and feelings. And as the world has shifted around us too, how has all of those things helped your worldview shift, or has it shifted, and in what ways?
Yeah. Thank you. For one thing, my worldview has gotten softer. I like my world a lot more. I grew up in a world that I did not like. I was very, very unhappy all the time. I was surrounded by people who were in grief all the time. I was surrounded by people who did not have happy worldviews all the time. It was all I knew. I didn't have models for how to do things differently. And so going on this boundary journey and like also this homecoming journey, this embodiment journey has been an incredible journey of lightness and shifting into happiness, as you mentioned before, right? So that is a big one. But additionally, I would say that I really want to talk about like an anti-racist, decolonial sort of shift that has been really important to my journey and really important to my worldview, how I move through the world now, and how very much so how I relate to spirituality and ancestry. And in this journey for me, one big component that is tangentially, I would say, related to boundaries and expectation setting is just really digging into an anti-racist practice and really doing the work to confront the yucky feelings, the shame, there's just so many different, the negativity, the anger, the frustration, all the things that would come up for me anytime I was confronted with my own racism, with my own privilege. As a white person, I want to be very clear to listeners, I am a white-bodied, able-bodied person. And so part of that journey, a big part of that journey that was pivotal to everything else moving towards happiness for me was going through a criticism practice and learning to take criticism, learning to hold criticism and not get caught in anger and project that back onto somebody who might be criticizing me or might be offering feedback. not to take it so personally, not to have criticism or feedback be processed in my body as somebody rejecting me or telling me that I was stupid or bad or whatever it is. And I think that this is a journey that white people in particular really, really need to go through. Anybody with privilege definitely has work to do in this realm, but particularly white people. For me, that is a generational trauma that we are holding on to, and we are holding on to it in the ways that our parents raise us, in the way that our white society raises us. We are holding on we get so much messaging around how we react to any form of criticism, right? And that is a white culture problem that is not okay. And it's one that, in order for us to move toward a better standard of living, right? Your whole thing, in order for us to move towards the world that I want to see as a trans person who's very, very scapegoated and currently in a world right now, right? In order for us to move into a world that has more love and care and holds people who are different and honors histories, we all have to do intergenerational and ancestral healing. And for white people in particular, a huge part of that journey is being able to confront all of these messages that we've learned, being able to confront our own shortcomings, being able to confront the like nasty histories in our heritage that might feel very close to home. That is all generational healing. That is ancestral healing, that we cannot move forward into a more anti-racist future without all of us doing that work. And I think that starting to do that work and making that work a daily practice, because it is a daily practice. It's not a one and done. Any form of allyship is not a one and done. It's a daily practice. And so making that a daily practice has enabled me to have so much more compassion for others, because it's also forced me to have compassion for myself, for my ancestors, for my immediate family, for white people around me, to be able to have these conversations. And it has created a lightness that I think white culture in particular doesn't allow space for. Capitalism, which I would very much argue is part of white culture and colonialism, doesn't allow space for that. And so that's been a really important part of the journey for me.
Thinking of it through the lens of criticism is an invitation, and I really appreciate that. And it's work that I want to show up to every day. And hearing you talk about it is inspiring to show up to it every day, because there is a lightness that gets to come when we have those hard conversations and look at the difficult parts of ourselves that are intergenerationally tied to our biases and to the way that we view the world. Even if we're not an active racist, we are still, like, it still lives inside of us, and being able to use this lens of criticism to help service us in that way. I haven't thought of it like that before. And what do you do in your own world that helps you look through that lens? And if you're comfortable sharing, like, what your practices are around it to encourage other people to start integrating that into their own.
Yeah. I might need you to cue me to go back to the tools, but first, to answer the question and be really clear, like, these are not original ideas, right? I have many places in my journey where I have been overtly, covertly, microaggressively, like, racist and colonialist. And I only learned this from the generosity of a lot of different people of different ethnic and like cultural and even like linguistic, especially in my travel journeys, backgrounds. And a lot of those people, like, will probably go unnamed because I can't even remember those individual interactions. But for listeners who are wanting to do this journey, please go and pay people of color, pay trans people of color to teach you about these things. Consume the content, read the books. And a couple that I would really recommend that people go to, first is La Murad, which is somebody I talk about quite a lot. La Murad is a Black queer spiritualist and talks really, really works specifically with people of color. I don't think ever, as far as I understand, never went out with the goal to teach white people. It was really about supporting supporting his own communities, right? But if you are wanting to do this work, then that is somebody who has a lot of really important things to say about this and is very helpful for moving through the journey, especially through a spiritual lens, if that is the way. And I think, especially for you and probably your listener base, is a good resource. Other people that I would really recommend from a more radical perspective, I would say, is Erica Hart. They are a trans Black femme creator who runs the Hood Rats and Head Wraps podcast. I would really recommend going and listening to them. Really, like, if you're somebody who's new to this conversation, start with the 101s. Go to the books. There's been so many books published in the last couple years, and try to get the ones that are written by people of color. So, like, the big one that was like maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago was the big thing, was White Fragility, which was written by a white woman. So the content of that is great, but you're going to pay a white woman, right? And so I would recommend the books that have come out since then, or maybe even before then, but weren't as popular at the time, that were written by people of color. So none of them are coming to mind, but they're all over the shelves. Literally any single one of them that you pick up will be worthwhile. Go read 4 or 5 of them and you'll see the same conversations happening over and over. And those are the ones you really want to listen to and start this practice.
Mm-hmm. I really appreciate that. And just the way that you speak about everything that you speak about, because there is the perspective we hold and the perspective that has helped us gain where we are, and paying a tribute to those things, and also encouraging people to go pay the correct people for this information, and how to encourage the well-rounded whole in that. So I really appreciate that. And as we are coming to the close of our time, I like to end with the same question. And I'm curious of what insights or wisdoms do you carry now that you didn't before?
I love the way that you structure your podcast. It's really you take people on such a beautiful journey. Thank you so much.
Thanks for sharing it with me.
Yes, I think kind of wrapping up, let's say, this whole conversation now and thinking about the journey, the biggest thing is when we are in hard times, whether it's personal or in more politically, socially hard times like we are living right now, I really, as far as cultivating this happiness and this joy and compassion and care and grace, those are really hard things to hold on to when things are tough. And I think that we have to do that in order to move in collaborative and collective directions. For me, it's really about a daily practice of gratitude and paying attention to the little things like the moon and the cycles of the moon as a reminder to, reflect at the full moon and set intentions at the new moon, paying attention to the seasons and how my body reacts to the seasons and giving space for that. We're coming into fall, so hermiting a little bit. So really dropping into what this beautiful world that we live in, this beautiful earth, is telling us and provides for us, and finding the compassion for myself and the smallness of that. This world, this earth is huge and time is huge, and I just live this one tiny life, and I'm really comforted in that. And it reminds me that I have so much choice in how I choose to respond to things, and the things that I choose to put my energy towards, the things I choose to think about, the things that I choose to create space for in my life. And so I'm one trans person you'll find who I'm chronically offline. I don't follow the news cycles, and I think it's important for us to be informed, but it's actually really unhealthy how tied in or plugged in we are here, particularly here in Boulder and in the Boulder trans community. It creates so much despondence and fear, and it paralyzes people in a space of not being able to, one, dream about beautiful futures, to create create this compassion for one another. It puts people in a space of being very reactive and almost doing lateral violence by projecting that trauma onto each other, the people closest to us, and that's not helpful. And it's just, I just think that it's not the healthiest way to be. And so for me, it's okay, what am I going to do moment to moment each day to cultivate joy and happiness? And a phrase I wrote in my journal last night that I'm so excited to put out into the world is that trans joy is the only form of resistance that completely centers trans people. And I want everybody to hear that. Trans joy, or if you are another minority group that is being attacked right now, insert you, is the only form of resistance that completely centers you. It completely centers your minority experience. It completely centers trans people. I think that's a beautiful note to end on.
Yeah, it is. And I really feel like joy is a form of activism right now in our world, and holding that. And like you were saying, not getting caught in the manipulation that is being constantly propagandized down our throats. And that's the point, to keep us angry at each other, so that we're not focusing on the bigger pictures and being able to stay in our joy and stay in the lightness is tender and is important. And what a beautiful note to end on. And as we officially end, I want to give you space to share how people can find you after this, if you want people to find you, which, you know, have you heard that they host a podcast called the Trans Embodiment Podcast? Take it away.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me on today. If you want to come listen to the podcast, it is available on most podcasting platforms. There's a dog. Lily the dog is speaking.
Pet to me.
Yes, Lily the pod mascot. If you come check out my podcast, Trans Embodiment Podcast, you will also hear from Alfred, my pod mascot, which is my yowling cat. He really does not like that I lock him out of the closet every time I record. He wants to be in the closet, which, you know, he maybe needs to unpack a little bit.
Alfred.
But yeah, I would say I am on Spotify for that. But don't support Spotify. I feel like I want to make the content as accessible to anybody as possible. So for now, I'm leaving it on there until I maybe have a bigger platform and say. But, you know, if you can listen to it elsewhere, maybe don't listen to it on Spotify. I have a Patreon. You can listen to the podcast directly from the Patreon page. Just look up Trans Embodiment Pod on Patreon. You can follow me on Instagram. Again, boo Instagram, but hey, listen, I'm really just trying to get information out to people. So Trans Embodiment Pod on Instagram, and on Bluesky, if you want a little bit less meta space. You can follow the pod on Bluesky at Trans Embodiment Pods _Bluesky. And you can email me if you want to talk about what I said. If you have something you want to call me in for what I said, please, I love to be correct. So correct me. It's the only way that I get to be correct, is being corrected. So yeah, call me in, or if you just want to share your story, if you want to give me cookies. Listen, I've run on cookies, so I really need the positive feedback to keep going. So you can email me at transembodimentpod@gmail.com.
What a beautiful invitation. Yes, please correct us if we're wrong. I love that. Yeah. And as we finish out, I want to give you an opportunity, if there's anything else you want to add to the space before we close, and then we'll close out. And I'm just so grateful for you being in this space and for your voice and everything that you got to bring today.
Thank you so much for having me on. I think I feel like we ended on such a beautiful note.
Yeah,
I don't want to even ruin it. It's beautiful.
Amazing. Well, RJ, I'm an I love you person. Does it feel okay if I say I love you too?
It feels wonderful.
Well, I love you. And to all of those listening, I love you. And go out and love loudly. Be your most authentic and beautiful self. The world needs you as you and your unique thumbprint that you have to offer. RJ, it's been such an honor and a privilege to have you in this space, to have light shine on your story and your unique perspective that makes you you. And to all of those listening, I hope you can take a little piece of curiosity with you and see that there is so much to explore, so much tenderness, love, and strength in the world. And you know, happiness is a form of activism. So is joy. So show up to that. I love you. Till next time. Bye.